Take me to the king. I don't have much to bring. My heart is torn in pieces. It's my offering. Take me to the king. Truth is, I'm tired. Options are few. I'm trying to pray, but where are you? I'm all churched out.
Hi, and welcome to Saving Our Communities Through the Arts. We have our guest with us today. We're going to talk about some of the things that are going on within the communities, outside of the communities. What does systemic racism mean? What does it mean to defund the police station and everything else? So we're going to guests that are on the show, on this panel right now. Let's give it up for our guests. We have the one and only T.O. Harderin, Mr. Ceasefire. He's the director he used to be the director over Ceasefire, but he also is the executive director and CEO of Violence Interrupters, his non-for-profit, and he has dedicated his life and career to community organizing for peace and social change. And in 1999, Mr. Harderin joined Ceasefire, an award-winning public health model, and my computer went down. Just like that. Award-winning public health model that has been scientifically proven to reduce shootings and killings in 2004. T.O. created the Violence Interrupters Initiative.
Welcome, Tia. Thank you. We also have Timothy Cross. Tim Cross, he's minister, playwright, film, and drama director. He's an actor, a retired drug abuse counselor, and a social activist. Originally from Detroit, Tim has been active in various projects in Chicago and Chicagoland area through the creative arts and social change projects. He is the director of Anafio Ministries, whose goal, Anafio, thank you for correcting me, Tim, Anafio Ministries, whose goal and mission is helping those struggling with addictions and providing help for the homeless. Currently the producer for City Bricks Report Card, coming soon, and is bringing awareness to the changes needed in Chicago's neighborhood. Welcome, Timothy.
Thank you.
Hi, and next we have Ted Williams III. Ted Williams III is a professor, speaker, and performer. He also teaches political science at the City Colleges of Chicago, and is the creator of the new musical 1619, The Journey of a People. He is the author of The Way Out, Christianity, Politics, and the Future of African American Community, and is a former candidate for the Chicago City Council. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Ted. And we also have Andre Smith. Andre Smith, he comes from a humble beginning. In 1864, his great-grandmother, Carrie Williams, was the first woman of color in 1864 to file a lawsuit, for the rights of colors to be paid equal and treated equal. And her attorney, J.R. Clifford, 156 years ago, her grandson is still keeping the spirit, and he's fighting for equal rights and fairness. Andre Smith was born in the city of Chicago in 1968 at Woodlawn Hospital, but being raised in Robert Taylor Projects. Andre Smith is a deep sea diver. Welder, finance manager. He was also the road manager for 3 Chicago police officers that was called the Slick Boys. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. And they were the creators of the New York Undercover television series, as you guys know, and is also the CEO for Chicago Against Violence. Well, he also has spent 26 years of his life being dedicated to helping others with the senseless violence. Andre Smith is also a preacher. Welcome, Andre Smith.
Welcome.
Welcome, Andre. So
welcome.
You all remember that my brother, which is Mr. Ceasefire, T.O. Harderin, ran for governor. He ran for governor here in the state of Illinois. He is definitely an activist on the scene. We have one more person that was trying to get in, but for some reason, she can't get in, so I'm going to try to make sure she gets in. But we're going to kick this show off and we're going to ask some questions to each of you. And we just basically want y'all opinion, especially with COVID-19 still going on and the violence that continues to happen in and around the city of Chicago and things like that. So let's get started. So one thing we want to know is, what can we do to change the system for our people? And I know, Ted, you have to run at 7:30, so we're going to shoot that question right to you.
Sure. So thank you again for having me. Thank you for hosting this. This is such an important time for us to take a moment as we are on a national sabbatical, if you will, trying to figure out how we deal with the greatest global pandemic that we've experienced in our lifetime. But it's a wonderful opportunity for us to stop and look at America for what it is. You know, America, in many ways, people like to believe this mythology about America. July the 4th, we just celebrated this independence. But I really want us to understand that America is the result of the genocide of Native Americans. It is the result of the enslavement of African people. There is a belief here that experts believe that 100 million Native Americans were killed between 1492 and today by this government and this society. African Americans, 20 arrived in in Point Comfort, Virginia in August of 1619, 250 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow segregation and legally sanctioned terror. So we are now here in a place of tremendous inequality. The average white American family has 10 times the wealth of the average African American family today. And so the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow segregation are real. What do we do? Well, I think very simply, without having a ton of time to go into this, I teach classes on this. I'll keep this real simple. The word is reparations. The truth is that we cannot go forward in this nation without dealing with what has been its greatest sin. Now, how those reparations look, we can have many debates and many arguments about it, but there's no way that we get to healing without pulling open the pocketbook financially in America and doing something about it. There was a study that said that if America does not enact reparations policies, it would take us close to 300 years to catch up where white America is. And ladies and gentlemen, to me, that's not acceptable.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, one of the things that I would ask the question when you say how can we change the system, I would say which system are you talking about? Because I mean, there's many different systems.
Absolutely.
I mean, for being,
wow.
from being, and I'm just saying this because I mean, just like my big brother Tio. I mean, I spent too many years out here already in these streets, over 26 years. So I mean, when you out there, you learn so many different things. I mean, you got a political system. You have a hustling system. You have a take advantage system. You have so many different systems, so we got to figure out which system are we talking about. You're talking about, as he said, reparations and slavery and all of that stuff. So you have so many things that you can, so many different systems. I mean, you got another system where you can, where you have the politicians where they write laws. Then those laws go into effect. Then they go from the House to the Senate. That's a whole nother system. Then they can push it back down. I mean, you got so many different things that we'll find out once you be out here. I mean, this whole thing is a monopoly. So we got to figure out, I guess, what system are we trying to change? Are we changing the Black Lives Matter, the grassroots movement system? The bottom system? Are we changing, the crime and the violence system? Because all of it is a hustle. One take care of the other. You got the crime, you got the jails. You got the jails, you got the judges. You got the police, you got the judges. You got the judges, which is elected. Then you have the politicians. Then you have the reps, the state reps, the senators, the Congress. Then you have the president, which you see what kind of president we got. And he has his own system. So we got to really figure out what system.
Let me ask you this, Andre. Because obviously, you brought up a great point. Why is it that, or what do you believe is the reason why we can't pinpoint what system or systems per se that we need to implement change?
Well,
needs to be some change.
I think that's a great question because one, we still living in the mentality of Jim Crow. We still living in the mentality of hating each other and the lighter and the darker and uneducated. We're still living in a system where I won't let you get to the next level because you may leave me and never come back. We're still living in a system where there's no fathers in the houses. We're still living in a system where we go and get taught in an educated system that is politically teaching us the wrong thing, teaching us how to continue to be slaves.
Right. And I would say to that he is 100% right. But really what we are just byproducts of this capitalist system. The hatred that we experience for one another is a hatred that is promoted and pushed in a capitalistic hierarchical system in which nobody wants to be at the bottom. And so if you look at the violence in our communities, if you look at the materialism in our communities, if you look at the drug trade in our community, you look at all these issues that we're talking about, this is America, ladies and gentlemen. We are just Americans. You know, Tupac said that America, as much as you hate me, I'm still your child. You can't throw me away because you made me this way. And I think that's really relevant if you think about it. I would suggest that America's violence, as Malcolm X said, the chickens have come home to roost. In certain ways, America's violence, America's materialism, as Dr. King called the three triplets of destruction, if you will, racism, materialism, and militarism, those things are prevalent in our communities. And so they come to us as though we are the creators of this drug trade. We are the creators of this violence. We're the creators of these guns, and we are not. We're just living out what America has taught as people who've lived in this country for 400 years as second-class citizens. And so what I'm saying is that to Mr. Smith's point, it is about flipping over systems. I'm not right now, and I think all these guys have been activists, and I respect them. I know some of their work, and I know that they are not looking for incremental change. We are beyond the point of incremental change. There was a phrase that said that we've missed I forget, there's a quote about the meatpacking industry, Upton Sinclair from the 1930s and 40s, where he said that we have moved beyond the point of discussion and change, and we are entering into a period of consequences. And I would suggest that we are way beyond the idea of change. Joe Biden wants to, I listened to his speech today, and he wants to hit a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We need institutional revolution in this country. And until we get that, we will not see justice for people that look like us.
All right. So Rochelle has joined us, Rochelle Cowan, and she is a Chicago-based filmmaker. She's the president of 1120 West Productions, so she is on with us. So we are giving out the questions. So T.O. has been doing this a lot. He's for the people, out with the people. He's been doing this to get to mediate against the gang violence and things like that. T.O., I want to ask you this. What is the difference between Black on Black crime versus Black Lives Matter to Black on Black hate?
That's a deep question, sister. So what it comes down to is this here. The bottom line is, okay, let's look at Black Lives Matter, which I support Black Lives Matter, but there are some issues, underlying issues, put it like that. You have people that have hijacked the Black Lives Matter movement, like the anarchists, Antifa, you got Marxism, communism. They're trying to ride the wave of Black Lives Matter. Then, I want to make this clear, I'm not against the LGBT community, but the LGBT communities, they have hijacked that movement as well. It's okay for LGBT members to be a part of the movement. Let me make that clear, because when you make comments nowadays, you have to be a little careful here and there. But I just believe the LGBTQ movement could be supported by Black Lives Matter members. And I've heard members of the LGBT community compare themselves to the struggle of Black folks during the transatlantic slave trade. Now, I don't see that comparison. I just don't see it, okay, for myself. But I'm not against it. People do what they want to do. Now, let me make it clear to the people that are watching and listening to me. I was raised that a man should be with a woman. That's my belief system, okay? I'm not pushing my belief system on nobody else, though. People can do whatever they choose to do. That's just for me. So the Black Lives Matter movement has been compromised. It's been actually exposed that this guy, George Soros, is one of the major financiers of the Black Lives Matter movement. He's a billionaire. So that's one thing. Let's just put that to the side for a minute. Some people may agree, but their cause is genuine. Some people think that they're fighting just for what's happening right now. Black Lives Matter, they are fighting for over 100 years of police corruption and excessive force and wrongful convictions and murder by the police. Okay, you have to understand the history of the police department in America. The police department, you had former KKK members, former racists who became, not really former, you had active members of the KKK party and active racists and Nazis that became police officers, and they had the power to kill Black folks. So Black Lives Matter, they're correct in that regard, okay? But the movement has been hijacked and compromised to a degree. That's number one. Number two, the black on black crime, when people get finished talking, and my thing is, as a brother, as a big brother in the movement, pretty much I don't see, okay, now if I was out there, and I'm not saying this to be tough, this has nothing to do with I'm a grown man. If I was out there when the police had they knee on George Floyd's neck, my constitution as a man would have made me push that police officer off that brother's neck, okay? I would have been forced to do it within my, with what's in me, in other words. So that's number one. So that was a major protest, which was necessary, all right? But when these babies killed in Black America by other Black people, there should be the same sustained protests and demonstrations when these Black babies are killed. In Chicago, no matter where they're killed. When women are killed, there should be the same sustained protests. I was one of the first brothers, Carla, you know this, and Andre knows this quite well. I stood up against the police when it wasn't popular. My name got blackballed. When nobody was out there standing up, I was standing up against police, excessive force and police brutality. But the thing is this, we have a model in Chicago. When Laquan McDonald was murdered, everybody organized, came to the table, mass demonstrations for months on months and all that stuff. And as an end result, there's been an 85% reduction in police-involved killings of Black men in Chicago as of today, all right? And I have all the numbers on that. So if we were to organize sustained protests, I'm not saying against the brothers in the street, on the streets, I'm saying reach out to them and try to bring them to the table so we can work out all their beefs and all their conflicts so they won't have to kill each other, okay? So the difference between Black on Black, I don't know I couldn't, to be honest with you, Carla, there is no difference. A killing is a killing. I watched a program the other day, Fatal Attraction. 2 African-American guys buried a young African-American girl to death alive for nothing. You hear me? I don't want to talk so loud. I'm just trying to make my point. They buried that girl alive for nothing. It messed with me for almost a week. I still haven't detoxed from it because one of the guys cooperated, got 20 years, the other guy got life. But they buried that girl alive, and the judge asked the guy, how did you know she was alive? He said she was looking at me in my eyes as they poured concrete on this girl, cement on her. So I don't know what the difference is. A killing is a killing. We should organize the same way when we kill each other, the same way they organize against police killing. And that's what I'll just say about that. And Carla, you asked me, it was a three-part question. I'll make it quick. I won't talk much longer, but I answered 2 of them. What's the last one, Carla?
Black on Black hate.
It's Black on Black hate? Well, no, there's a certain segment of our population. You know, the jealousy has always been around. That goes back to the plantation. Malcolm X talked about it. He talked about how the master would be on the plantation, and the house brother would say, if the master gets sick, he'd say, well, we sick. The house brother wasn't even sick, but he'd be sick with the master. And that came from the fact that a lot of brothers in the field wanted to get into the house with the master, and it set up a jealousy, okay? It set up a real jealousy. And to go deeper with you all, there was what you call a genocide in Rwanda. It has nothing to do with America, but I just want to paint a picture for you. The Tutsi people were the minority, and the Hutu tribe were the majority in Rwanda. But when the French and the Belgian people pulled out, they put the Tutsi people like somewhat in charge of some, but the Hutu people could not wait to kill off the Tutsi people, and the Chinese gave them all the machetes and stuff. But the point I'm making, the jealousy that was created by the colonizers spilled over on the Hutu people, and they massacred 900,000 Tutsi people over there in Rwanda, okay, back in 1994, and the United Nations did not intervene. But the point I'm making, Black on Black self-hatred comes in many forms. The brothers on the streets have an issue with it, but the jealousy, the enviness, the conniving, the backstabbing, that's a part of life, you know, in the Black community. So it's hard to really just speak on it because people even get mad. They say, well, it's not Black on Black hatred, but it's definitely something, Carla, that causes our people to just hurt each other for the slightest reason ever. We got a guy in Austin right now, in the Austin community on the west side. They want me to talk to him. I know the guy. he's a young guy that I knew, Carlo, when he was growing up. He respects me a lot, but they say he out there just shooting people now. He lost his mind. He just, one of his best friends got killed, and now he already basically probably shot 4 people, you know, and I'm definitely going to talk to him, but I don't even know what state of mind he's in right now. He's a little guy, he respects me a lot, but I just got your call before I got on his site. That's why I haven't reached out to him yet, but I believe he might listen to me, but they say he went kind of crazy. He's killing a lot of people right now out there, so that's another higher call, everybody. So I'm gonna just leave that where it's at, but the self-hatred is rough. Self-hatred is rough, Colin.
If I might say something about the black on black crime issue, I think that people oftentimes, I hear this all the time, well, you know, the black on black crime versus, you know, white on white crime or police brutality. You know, the real issue, I think, is that we are facing a national sickness. You cannot relegate people to second-class citizenship for 400 years. No access to equal housing, no access to equal opportunities and loans, no access to equal representation in the media, the terrorism that has been legal up until just 50 years ago in our community, right? So it was, you know, there was no prosecution for lynchings, no prosecution for rape of our community. We are just now in 2020 getting to the point where we're actually prosecuting police officers just now in 2020. This is just a new thing for us. And so what I'm saying is our community is sick and we are broken. And the black on black crime phenomenon, if you will, is not really black on black, is not really an issue. People commit crimes in the communities that they're in. Dr. King said that crime is environmental, it's not racial. When you see conditions like this, wherever you see it around the world, what do you see? You see gang violence, you see drug use, you see the same phenomenon, whether it be in Colombia, whether it be in West Africa, whether it be in even parts of Europe, you see tribalism, and you see people who are looking for hope and where there is none. And what I'm saying again is that we are sick. I refuse to create a dichotomy between fighting against police brutality and fighting against crime in our community. They are one and the same. When we say Black Lives Matter, we are saying that Black lives have not mattered to anybody in this society, Black people included, right? To no one in this society. We have literally been at the bottom of the totem pole, with the exception of the Native Americans, who were essentially exterminated, right? But there was no other sort of more hated group in America than us. And so, yes, there is a mentality in our communities where people hate themselves. Why wouldn't they hate themselves in this society that has told them that they are nothing forever? So we look at this, and I love and appreciate all the work these brothers do, because I once again, I know about their work. They're doing the work out in the streets. But I want to look at this from a holistic, larger perspective for the people who are listening. Don't you dare go into these communities and blame them for their own problems from the outside world. Those folks who are looking and saying, oh, well, y'all protesting this. I agree with him. We should be protesting that as well. But we're also talking about police brutality. We're talking about institutions that are designed to serve and protect, and they never have. So how can we then even have safety in our community when the institutions that are supposed to protect us don't do so? Yes, we need to get to this other issue. Yes, this issue is important, but I'm telling you, I'm a taxpayer. So if the police stop killing us, right, then we can begin to develop the holistic approach to all of the other issues that are critical: lack of education, lack of housing, lack of healthcare, that make people really have no respect for their own community and their own lives. The hopelessness is real. And so there's not two different issues. They're all the same. We have to make Black Lives Matter all the way around to everyone, and you will see that begin to change.
Yeah, and Ted, thank you, Tio, and both of you all had addressed something that we've had a number of questions as it pertains to where we at on the state of the world, for that matter, and then then we're also facing this, what I'm calling the awakening period. I'm seeing a lot of conversations where people are like, well, wouldn't it matter that, does Black lives really matter when we're killing each other? And then I also see conversations where people are justifying it, and saying that it's the outside that's doing it rather than us, as if we're, kumbayaing, so to speak, at this time. What do you have to say, or do you have an opinion, or a message for those that, are just not, facing the reality. This is really truly happening in our communities. Like Tio, you said earlier, if you know somebody that's, got some things going on, so do you have an opinion or message about, I guess we'll call the conflict, conflictual conversations, and, then the crime being justified, based on what's happening on the outside?
Yeah.
Fine.
Hey, if you guys don't mind, if I'm gonna step off. So if I could just say one last thing, and then I'm gonna go and you
Yes.
turn over. First of all, I appreciate you all so much for this conversation. We got to continue to do this. We have to continue to educate and inspire. And once again, I respect everyone here. Want to connect with you all afterwards. The last thing I will say, and I'm sure these brothers agree with this, we don't manufacture guns. We don't grow drugs. We don't do any of that stuff. So this is America's problem. This is not the Black community. I get so sick of people saying, well, Black people fix their own problems. This is an American problem. When the city of Chicago has more murders than New York and Los Angeles combined, but by the way, not the most in the country. We're around the number 20 when it comes to per capita, by the way. There are many cities that are more violent when you look at the numbers, right? The smaller cities, Newark and St. Louis, and these cities are more violent than us. But what I'm saying is that America created the drug trade. America created the Second Amendment. America created easy access to guns. America created all of this. So why are we blaming Black people for it? And then America created conditions in which Black people were treated like crap for 400 years. And then you wonder why on earth these conditions exist. And what I'm saying is this is all of our issue. Let us not fall into the trap of allowing people to blame the victim for what is happening. This is an American phenomenon. And we have a person in the White House, a racist in the White House. Yes. An avowed racist and unapologetic. He's not the first racist in the White House. He's just very unapologetic about it and very, excited about it, proud of it. But when we have that, and when he blames Baltimore and blames Chicago, he is abdicating his number one responsibility as a leader, which is to protect his people. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is language we have to reject. Thank you all. God bless you all. Have a great day. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ted. Ted Williams, everybody.
let me jump in and say.
Yeah, I wanted you to jump in. Go ahead, Ted.
As I listen, can put your seatbelts on a little bit, I think. See, one of the things that I see, and I see that everybody has reparations, everybody has this, and there's nothing wrong with all of these things that we are saying. The problem is everybody wants just what they say to be the total solution, as opposed to taking something from what everyone has said and put it together and say, hey, this is the issue. Let me go back a little bit. We talk about a bad time, but let's remember the Tulsa situation was worse than what we're living in now. Yet still, we know that Tulsa, the Black Wall Street, they got together and they did some things that we want to do movies and stuff about it now. So what happened? What did they decide to do? Number one, they decided to quit complaining about the racist system, which is even more racist than what we are playing now because people were getting killed and shot. But they also said that this is what we're going to do. They had hospitals, theaters, and what they did was they decided to, what brother said about what system we're going to change. I ain't interested in disrupting the system. I'm more interested in developing our own system. That's what Tulsa did. So what happened was the average dollar circulated in their community, I think it was probably 100 times before it left. My numbers may be off. But anyway, so I think that's part of it. There's nothing pretty much that I disagree with anybody said. I don't know if Tito remember, I actually worked for him because I was the ceasefire director out of Aurora. And
I know you, I know you, bro.
Right. So I've been on the streets, I'm a social activist, and I believe, here's my other thing I want to say. We can have all of these things in place, but I believe, and maybe this is the spiritual part of me, the heart of the matter is a matter of the heart. Until you change people's hearts, you can do whatever you want to do And instead of when you tell well how you change their heart, you start to talk about some programs and stuff that change people to respect life period. Because a lot of this, in terms of the gun violence and the shootings, and especially the shootings over the last couple of weeks, has been what? It's economics. It's economics. Is one group against another in terms of not only the gangs and other things. So I think that, but again, back to what at the beginning, what I mentioned. Oh, and by the way, let me state this. I totally agree with what Teal said about the Black Lives organization. I again, I got my beliefs and whatever, but when you read their agenda, the first thing I got to saying, like, okay, I understand this, but what does this got to do with black people? Because it seemed like the agenda was more so let's free the LGBTQ community, and that's again that's a different subject. But I do believe the Black Lives Matter movement is the thing that's becoming prevalent now. But again, I'm just a believer in social justice, biblical social justice, but also at the end of that, we have to change. How do we change people's hearts? Because if you change people's hearts, then our communities will get changed, right? Get changed. But until we start valuing, teaching women and girls and men and boys how do we do that? How do we value each other so that life can be sustained and so that we can help one another? That's the thing. And again, the different programs, whether it's political, spiritual, and we want to grab one and say this is the answer, as opposed to taking something from each one and saying, hey, let's do this. If that makes sense. That's my point.
Okay. So I know we basically also want to know what we can do far as in the arts to help in our communities, but we have like a ton of stuff to talk about, and it comes with, what can we do to support our community? As one of the main subjects, and we'll talk about that as we heading out of this show, is about defunding the police. What does that mean, and why should that be done, and if it should be done?
Well,
anyone?
The defunding the police, I think, is different. We have to be careful also, I think, because the funding for the police is different in a lot of cities. For example, there may be some funding for the police that funding may be tied to some things may not want to cut. But also, as I did research and I looked at defunding the police in other cities, like for example, New York, they cut $1 billion, and when you look at that, you're just like, wow, that's a lot. But when they look at what that money was for, was actually was connected to a lot of other city programs that the police was part of it. So I would caution. My caution has always been not a blanket system. Where when you say defunding the police, what does that mean? Does it mean taking some money from this and put it into more police training or some neighborhood activities for kids? It depends on, what does that mean?
Now, as far as defunding the police, I wouldn't be in total agreement with defunding the police. I know the police have a lot of problems. You need the police, and the main response I would provide anybody with, if you were at home right now and 5 people were in front of your house with their guns ready to shoot your house and you don't have a gun, who are you going to call? You're going to call the police 9 times out of 10, okay? So I'm not saying that, I think that some of their budget definitely needs to be shaved off due to the fact that the police in Chicago anyway, they don't seem to have a clue when it comes down to reducing gun violence, and that's a problem. So if you're not getting the job done, why do we continue to fund the police? Why do we continue to fund the police on a high level and they're not getting the job done? The homicide clearance rate is only like around 14% in Chicago. And when we worked in Aurora, I had to give some credit to the police out there as far as Aurora doesn't have no more like gang problem out there. I'm not saying the police did everything. We played a role also. And don't get me wrong, I haven't been to Aurora in a while. I know they used to have a real serious problem some years ago, but things have changed a little bit. I haven't heard a whole lot. I know the gangs I was in, but I don't mention gangs names all the time because I have a relationship with a lot of them brothers out there. But the police, they need to really change their model, and they need to become a little bit more culturally sensitive. If not, then you may have to defund the police. But if you defund the police, are the people ready to patrol their own communities? A lot of people not ready to patrol their own communities. I saw some brothers in Atlanta. Them brothers come close to being like a militia. They had all their guns and machines, semi-automatic weapons out and stuff. I think they come close to patrolling the community, but that's going to lead to a lot of confrontations. And if people ready to patrol and control their communities, let's do it. But if you're not ready, just let the police do whatever they do. That's just my take on it. But their budget definitely needs to be shaved down about 25 or 30%, without a doubt.
Andre, unmute yourself.
Let me say this. I was taught that, when a person asks me a question, I have to give a truthful, honest answer because you're accountable for the information that you give. That's why sometimes I hate people asking me questions because most of the time we try to be politically right, because people record you, they keep it, and then they use it against you. So you really try to, sometimes you try to, but I'm not the kind of person to give you a watered down answer. That I just try not to say nothing to put myself in a position where a person asks me something, because if you ask me something, you're going to get the honest answer with what I believe. Now, I'm a person also that bowed down to truth, and only truth rules with me. If you can point out truth, and if I'm wrong, I'm going to say, okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I said that to say this. When I was around 17 years old, I was robbing 3 people a day. My desk was in the principal office in DuSable. I had people selling drugs for me and all kind of stuff. I was a hell raiser. And my mom called the police on me. They came from 51st to Robert Taylor's 4101 South Federal Apartment 610. The man came in, a male officer said, come on, let's go. She said, get him out of here. They were going to take me to the Audi home. The female officer said, well, ma'am, do you mind if I talk to your son for a moment? My mama said, I don't care. Once you finish, get him out of here. We went into the bathroom. And me and the female officer get to talking. And when we came out the bathroom, she came out and said, ma'am, I'm not taking your son anywhere. That was the female police officer. If it wasn't for her to this day, I'd probably still be in jail, the kind of person I was. She said, your son feel that you don't love him. She said, you done adopted all these other kids and you have all these kids in this house. He's your baby son. And he feel that you don't love him. My mother looked at, and she listened to that female officer. She looked at that female officer, then looked at me and she said, baby, do you feel that way? Do you believe that way? And thank you, Lord. Just because that female officer was standing next to me, I felt enough where I can tell the truth. And I said, yes, I didn't feel that she loved me. And a tear rolled down her face. And when that tear rolled down her face and she came to me and she said, you my baby boy, I will always love you. Then I changed my life. Only then, because I was one of those guys. Only then did I change my life, when I found out that my mother really loved me. But it was that police officer lady that acted as a social worker or a counselor. She just didn't do the job as a police. So as far as defunding the police, I don't really agree with that. I agree with that they have a lot of waste. What I agree with is that we have the wrong people in the wrong positions. So when you have the wrong people in the wrong positions, they don't know what to do. They don't have a clue on how to fix a fight crime. They don't even know the people like T.O. Harding. So they got to spend money and more training because they don't have a clue on what to do. That's why when you look out our doors, that's why it's hell and hot water out there. Police fighting each other, shooting people. Now, let me go back to this. Police are in school not for the people that want to learn. They in school for the people that want to disrupt and stop the people that want to learn. You understand what I'm saying? Beretta said a long time ago, don't do the crime if you don't want to do the time. So I ain't really with that, but I do agree that they have a lot of waste. They have a ton of waste throughout this city, not only the police department, but remember I talked about systems. Now I'm gonna talk about agendas. People spend money to push an agenda, and that agenda become reality because we all programmed. And when you're saying, why is there black on black crime? You have to remember this. And why is it so comfortable? You know, why don't nobody snitch? Or why if somebody like a police hit a person, we do something about it, we march. Or if a police shoot a black person, we march. You got to remember this. Back in the slave days, they had a buck, a strong buck that would handle the whip and that would whoop another black man while his family watched, or the rest of the slaves. So we took that same mentality into our household. And when we done something, instead of trying to figure out what was the psychological problem or the psychological damage from slavery growing all the way to these times, it became normal in our house to see each other get beat. You understand what I'm saying? So white people didn't beat their kids, they counseled their kids. So we start beating each other in the house, and then your mama and them tell you, don't let him hit your brothers, all y'all jump. That's what's going on today. We allow people to come in our community because they look like us, because they are our nephews, our cousins, our little brother, and gun each other down. But the minute a white person or a police officer do something in our community, we want to do a protest, do a march. Why do you think we don't march when one of our people do something in our community? Because we're programmed not to.
And we program, and a lot of them are programmed to blame everybody else for an action in the community.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I agree with that 1,000%. That's the psychological thing that we were taught in school. See, all this is an education. This stuff has been put in us over and over, repetition, over and over again. Yeah. Well, not that it's right, it's that we believe it's a fact.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Andre,
you brought up a great point, because because we have to think about this. We've got generations behind us. How do we redirect that thought process, the mindset, the heart set? How do we redirect that? Because they're being influenced by technology. They're being influenced by the microwave generation. Everything's fast and available to them right now. And so they're seeing things that we weren't privy to when we were growing up. So how do we redirect the Gen X?
let me say this. We're in serious trouble, and we're in so much trouble that you really don't even understand. Because as I stated before, systems and agendas. Okay, we have, and I hope I don't get too deep into this thing, because you have people outside, which I don't give a damn who march in front of my house. But you look at people that sit back and study us. They've been studying us for years. So they studied us so damn well that they come out with a goddamn name like Black Lives Matter. A name or a title don't mean nothing. It's what's behind it that makes it something. This rich billionaire put some shit together called Black Lives Matter because he knew we didn't give a fuck. Fuck the agenda, fuck the bylaws. We gonna get on board because we just them kind of people, and we were taught to do that. Black Lives Matter Constitution to talk about, the bylaws said, and I didn't want to get too deep into it, but the bylaws said, ordinary for you to be a leader, you got to be gay. You understand what I'm saying? So in other words, you can't be a revolutionary. You can't be somebody like T.O. Hardiman that know the streets, that knows how to fix this thing. As long as you gay, you can be a leader. Yeah. Now here's the problem. The problem is the politicians also is pushing the gay agenda in our school to our children. They took prayer out. They took prayer out and they put that gay stuff in there. That ain't right. And our community is in a world of fucking trouble. So you ain't gonna be talking about revolution anymore. You ain't gonna be talking about black people, whatever. You're gonna be talking about they gonna be gay.
Can I ask you? One of the things I want to go back. Sorry, my other computer went off. But ask Andre. I think brought up a powerful point. When he said, and you said when the police officer came and then said that changed. So would you say at that point your mind and your heart changed, right? Your whole way of looking at things changed, correct?
Well, let me tell you this, dear brother. When I say change can happen right then, but there's a course that you have to take to be deprogrammed. Now listen to me, because this is important. There's a course that you have to take to be deprogrammed. And just like a person in AA, you can snap back at any given time.
So that was your process.
So when I saw the police officer lady defend me, because I never had nobody defend me. You understand what I'm saying? When she stood up for me, I changed my life with the help of God. I signed myself into Job Corps. But remember, my desk was in the principal office in DuSable. When I went to Job Corps, that don't mean my life changed. I almost got kicked out 3 times.
Well, yeah, it was a process. But at least, but my point was that was the whole process. When you had my point was you had somebody. Yeah, everything is a process. You had somebody to intervene and begin to start that process so that you can begin to make the change. And of course, it took some time and probably some other people. But yeah, I get that.
Well, what it takes, brother, it takes people like T.O. Hardeman that been out here and dedicated his life, and people don't understand. People don't understand when you take this journey of fighting for people that don't know you fought for them. When you take this journey and this commitment, man, you lose a lot. You lose relationships, you lose family, you lose children, you lose a whole lot. It's a hell of a cost to pay.
And that's true.
Because getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, going to stand over somebody that's dead and you don't even know them, and your wife or your whoever looking at you like, nigga, are you crazy? But that's the commitment that you made, and you must continue it. You lose a lot.
But that's true when you're doing that type of work. But we also have to look back at the thing is with the police, and if you go back to what happened in the 60s, what black people in the 60s with the police and with the hose, fire hose spraying and all the other stuff and things that happened to black people then. The police are corrupt. It's not everybody, it's just some. And you have to weed out the racist cops. They are there. They've been there. That's just the bottom line. That's how Fred Hampton died, the racist cops. And I mean, the bottom line is nobody is standing strong, just like how the Black Panther movement did back then. They are not standing strong. Now you're seeing somebody in Louisiana, they're holding guns because they're tired. It becomes a point of being tired of a systemic racism in a system. When Laquan McDonald was murdered, that boy was walking away from that racist cop. He's a racist. And no matter how you look at it, every racist thing came out in his field for him to shoot that young man 16 times. He unloaded on him while the other one sat back. And all he's serving is 6 years. Just like of George Floyd.
I say this.
That was a public lynching of that man. Hold on one second. That was a public lynching. These police are trained to put their neck on the black people's necks. If y'all go on YouTube and find some old videos with some New York cops talking about who they are told to go and mess with and lock up, they'll say the black and brown people. That's who they are told to go and mess with and lock up. That's just like when it happened to, what's his name in New York? I Can't Breathe. You know, it's a lot of things. But now, what I find wrong with a lot of stuff is when black people take this and play on it when their person is in the wrong and they get killed by a police. Now, there are 2 sides. There are some sides now. There are some sides. We know what public lynching is for the ones that are definitely getting lynched by these dirty racist cops. But what about the ones who are not? And because now we have this, that it needs to stop, every becomes a bad cop. and that's not true. They need to wing out these crooked, dirty cops and fire them and send them on their way and start holding them accountable for their actions.
Thank you, Lord G. Now, I ain't no way am I defending police. I mean, they a group of white police officers done something to me, and I sued the city. So it's no way that I'm defending white police officers. But let me tell you like this: if you have a dog and you let that dog loose and you say skid him, and that dog bite an individual, is it really the dog fault or is it the owner fault? And I say that to say this: the police, their job is to uphold the law. The politicians is the job to create and write the law. So if the law was that, and they enforced the law, that the police, if they did something wrong, they'd go to jail, and that was enforced, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. But see, because you have racist policymakers or racist lawmakers, that's why they allow the dogs to go out and do the things that they do to Black people.
Okay, so but what can we do to redirect the mindset of the youth, the younger, because here's the thing, like I'm from this little city called Covington, Kentucky, okay? Yeah, we had crime, we had all the other things, but our little neighborhood gangs and stuff, but it was nothing compared to Chicago. I mean, it takes you 5 minutes to get from north to south in our little small town, okay? Right next door to Cincinnati. As it pertains, we were introduced to the arts, to keep us out of the streets. We were introduced to programs. We didn't have to. They created opportunities, and I realized that there's a lack of funding and a lack of opportunities. So what is it that we can do? Because the Gen X kids, these kids are different than anybody above above them. I mean, and not saying that there's less there because of Gen X. But do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, we've got it. Like, what can we do? Like I said, I was introduced to the arts. I'm in the art. It's literally it was one of the things that saved my life.
Well, I say this. Continue to do things like this. Shows where you have real people talking about real things, because you have so many things out here, so many systems, so many different agendas, so many people that is bought in. So, I mean, y'all are doing a wonderful job. You have T.O. here. T.O. have much love and much credibility. He's authentic. You have people like myself. You have people like Brother and stuff like that. Put these shows on. While they got this corona whatever stuff, put these shows on and let people's voices be heard, so it gives people something to think about.
And that's exactly what we're doing. I think our biggest viewpoint, and this is what we're doing now, is to say, what's your viewpoint on us implementing art programs in underserved communities? Because that's what our goal is. I will come back to T.O. and ask T.O. about that, because T.O., he does the violence interrupters. He's an activist, and we have something to ask about activists as well. But we want to keep our viewpoint of implementing the arts in underserved communities, because this is one way we want to reach our youth, teens, and young adults. We want to be able to grab some of these young adults that each generation get worse and worse, right? So if each generation get worse, there's a way that we need to reach our young adults, because what happens is when they go into the jail system, they get in trouble, they spend a year or two or maybe 5, I don't know, but they come out still a young adult. They believe that there's no job. They can't get no job. They can't get anything. Nothing can be done. But we need to find ways to train them to be entrepreneurs with job skills, to know how to do that. And the arts is a good program to do that. So T.O., what do you think about implementing these programs and getting more of that in these underserved communities?
Well, that's a given there, Carla. It's important that the arts, I talk to a lot of young people all the time. They love the idea of having more arts in the schools, because that gives people an outlet, something they can do, something they like doing. And right now, the way things are going, I think that a lot of the school leaders should always think about how they can keep kids in school, keep kids, teenagers interested in going to school and all that kind of good stuff. So I definitely support more arts in the school. It's needed, it's necessary all the way, 100%. So, as a leader, I think I would talk to, lawmakers and, leaders, administrators at the schools to make sure they get the arts in there on a higher level, because that's what a lot of young people are interested in. But one thing I would recommend though is when you're working on the arts, turn math into an art, turn English and reading into an art form, so it can be kind of fascinating to learn, because you don't just arts without the learning component of learning your basics and stuff. So I think being a little creative with the art is necessary right now. Carla.
So what do you think about this being a way to reach our young adults as well, the ones who are committing the murders, the ones who don't have no substance in the underserved communities, the ones whose fathers are in
There's some of the killers out there, the
dead?
young
How
guys.
can we
With some of the young guys that in terms of themselves, they can get turned into killers. They should have been reached a long time ago. I think that once a guy, kills a few people and he gets away with it, a guy starts having a sense of thinking that he's standing on top of a mountain because he's already taken a life and he can care less about basically. It's different sets of killers out there though. You got guys that kill for self-defense. You got individuals that they psychotic. Some of them are sociopaths. They have different mindsets. And some guys are just like some of them killing just for the fun of it. And a lot of people have, some of the parents, and I don't want to blame everything on the parents because you never know how people grow up and what they deal with in their lives personally, okay? But the thing is this here, somewhere along the way, some people got lost and they became disenfranchised in overall society and they became psychopaths. And once a person has reached a psychopathic level, it's hard to turn them around, to be honest with you. Time turns people around. You got some guys, they 60 years old now, 50, 60 years old now, they want to cool out, but they were psychopaths back when they was younger. So reaching the younger guys now, you got to reach them in the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and hopefully you can keep their interest, in other words. So by the time they turn 14, 15, 16, they will be on a solid tracking in a pathway to become productive members of society, because we're missing a lot of these young guys. They dropping out of school and they end up running the streets and they see their friends being killed, and a lot of them have lost their conscience. People that lose their conscience, they are more prone to commit acts of violence against other people without any type of remorse, any thought about it at all. So that's and that's a segment of the population. Understand that. But I do think the arts would play a role in maybe catching some of those would-be killers. But you have to understand, in genetics, some people, not a lot, there's a small percentage of people that are born into, they have like a predisposition to become killers. People don't want to hear that, but it's true. Some people have a smaller empathy gland in their brain, and there's another scientific term for it, but some people do not have the capacity to feel what other people feel, which means they can do almost any and everything under the sun, and they don't have no feeling about it at all. Yeah. When you run into those types of incorrigible, they end up on medications later on in their lives because they just cannot be rehabilitated because there's something going on up here. But that's not the majority. That's just a small minority of the people. And people like that often find themselves in prison for long, long periods of time based on the fact they cannot stop, killing, So I believe the arts can reach some of them people, though I'm not ruling it out. I think the art, if you reach them at an early age, it might just save some of those individuals from turning that corner. Okay, yeah. But once they turn that corner, it's hard.
Yep.
Let me.
And another thing with that is that, that if I know funding is always a challenge, but if they would, diversify the resources to various parts of the city, because it is restricted. I mean, you got this big old production facility. I mean, I work in TV. I've been 20-something years. I'm familiar with all of the production facilities and all the, what's around here, but it's like, they're getting all these resources, and these resources need to be diversified and pulled into the South Side, the West Side neighborhoods, because you got, small business owners that, are trudging the ground, doing the work, investing their own monies into this. Why can't we get the same resources that they make accessible for these major productions per se, and all this other stuff? And we're talking millions upon millions of dollars, that's been made available. So, we've got to, it's also, it's more so too, I think, like I brought up about redirecting the mindset, the hearts of the kids. We got to do the same thing with the people that are at the top, as it pertains, and let them know. I mean, literally, I think, they don't, the discussion's not been had. I'm just telling you, when it comes to certain folks and individuals in a certain part of the city and getting some of those opportunities and jobs outside of the union space, per se. So I just wanted to add my input.
Yeah, let me, could I add something to the it's not to disagree with that, want to add something what Tio said about those, most of my life also has been working with incorrigible youth, even before I got into the other aspects. And it's not so much, I don't think, that their predisposition, it's that the teachers, there are certain kids, let me put it this way, there's certain kids that have, they have a style of learning. For example, how I put it, it's like some kids, one kid was an example Dr. Kunjuku described, where you can take him into he's hands-on. You can take him into a gym and have a basketball, and he learns by hands-on. And then there's other kids who learn in a different way. And that's why I don't even believe so much the ADHD thing. It's just that those kids are not, again, I agree with them, not all of them, but it takes more to get to them. It takes more to get to how they want to learn the things that we want to teach them. That's number one. Number two, I think that the people that are in gang, the people that grew up in that gang culture, actually are, to me, some of the smartest people in the world, because everybody knows on the street, you got to be smart to be on the street. I ain't talking about, I'm talking about in terms of whether you handle,
I say that all the time.
Yeah, whether you handling money, whether you handling how to survive, that takes skill. That ain't something that that takes tremendous skill. They very, some guys who know, even when you're talking about selling drugs, guys will know they can add real quickly. They know what how much they give you back. They know all of that, what they owe, what their percentage is. They may not have dropped out of school, but that takes some skill. Even the whole point of running a gang culture, that person is smart. And so what we have to do is take those same skills and say, hey, you could be CEO, you could be a manager, and I think the arts are one of the tremendous things that can bring out, because these kids have not been exposed to the arts. So you get a guy that's been hooked up with a crew, and then all of a sudden you get them to say, hey, you think you could act? Well, number one, I don't know too many gang members that can't act, pretty much, because they got to, right? You got to act,
yes.
And so,
yes,
right.
yes.
So you can act,
masters of disguise,
And think about the ones that can sing, they can dance, and whatever. So those are untapped resources in their lives that we have to get to. And they say, hey, and you just look at some of the ones that made it. Look at Ice Cube. Look at Ice-T and all of them. They were bangers, but they got tremendous talent that somebody that they got to,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I say that art saves lives. I mean, for me, I truly believe that the arts saves lives. It does.
They get the opportunities, and you give them the opportunities, and I think that's a tremendous way.
Absolutely.
Through play. Write some plays for them. Write some film for them. We're doing a City Bricks report card project. I'm trying to get ready to, not trying, I'm in the middle of doing my first indie film, doing a couple of more movies about this camp that I'm connected with. I'm gonna get kids that ain't never acted, and then street, and then just I've been doing it all my life and working with them, and discover, hey, you know what? You got some talent. I did a whole play when I did a whole play about recovery
when I worked at Southwood. And everybody in the play was a recovering addict. They were people that were in my outpatient group. Every single last one of them. We took the play to Detroit, and it was about addiction, but these were awesome actors. They never had opportunity. And my job was just, let me bring that out of you, what's already in you.
Yeah. Just not being handed or afforded the opportunity to be able to tap into those gifts and talents. But about 19 years ago, I was in Cincinnati. I was working part-time for Cincinnati Public Schools as a media specialist teacher. I created a program, and as a part of that program, I trained and developed 5th through 8th graders in production. I had all my equipment, moved all my equipment into the school, and brought in cameras because they didn't have the resources. So I brought and donated everything. These 5th and 8th graders, they were from the one of the projects in the area. They, many of them, face crime on a daily basis. Didn't eat. I mean, they were born and raised like myself. They've been physically, mentally, sexually abused. Parents just kind of like all over the place. Students having babies, at the age of 13 and 14. That was what I was experiencing with these students. And when that school gave me the permission to bring in this program, I was able to take a hold of those babies and really encourage them. And they really were able to tap into the gifts and talents, and it saved a lot of their lives. Today, I mean, they hit me up like, hey, Miss Malden, thank you, that are, they're studying photography, they've got different businesses, they're in medicine, they're doing different things, but it kept them off the streets. It gave them an opportunity to create and to just bring their imagination to life, and, you could do that through a visual perspective or an audible perspective. However, whatever that medium is, introducing the arts is just another way to help to expose people's gifts and talents. And so we want to continue to do that, not just about, but we don't want to just talk about it. We want to do something about it. Instead of things being done half-assed, because I feel like things are being half-assed done in some of these programs, these mentorship programs, these schools, that we really do the work, to save that next generation. Because if we're dealing with what we're dealing with right now, like, think about tomorrow. It's going to be jacked up, like Andre said. Andre said it's going to be jacked up, messed up. I'm paraphrasing how he said it, but that's what we're going to be at. And so we've got to do something right now. We're talking about it, which is a blessing. To have each and every one of you out here is truly a blessing. The work that you do, the contributions to the community is just absolutely amazing. And so at this point, it's like, okay, as a collective, and this is going to be a conversation that we have on a regular basis with a multitude of different people. But at this point, it's like, okay, we've got to start to think about these kids that's coming up behind us. Because this is going to be a really scary place in about 10 years if we don't.
Absolutely. That's correct. So, and I actually work with the kids in DCFS. And I created a play for them, and I saw how one person who didn't talk got to talking. Or I saw one person who, she lost both her parents, but she was real, didn't want to do it. She did it, and it brought out something in her. So you look at how kids take to doing things and be able to say. And that's one thing that we're doing with the Dream Real Theater Company. And now we have our foundation, which is Saving Communities through the Arts Foundation. And our goal is to get the funding to help our youth teens and even some of our young adults, catch them before they go and commit the murder. Catch them to let them know that you can be successful. You can be an entrepreneur. You can do things. You can build a set. You can film. I mean, you don't have to go to school to learn things, but maybe we can train you by you being under us, learning to be mentored, not just going out and talking about it, but being about it and doing it. So the last question of the night is, with the activists that are out there now, how come we only see them when the television comes on. And we don't hear much about them when the television camera is off. Like my brother, he's seen in front of the camera.
All the time.
Not in front of the camera. But someone else is not. And then when you ask them to invite them to come on, they don't do what they say they're going to do. It becomes they need that other lens in front of them. So I wanted to ask Andre, Tio, and Tim that question. How come we only see these activists when something happens to a Black man by a white person or Black people in general, but we never see them pulling as much when it's time to come and voice opinions about saving our community? And then I have one more question after that, and then we're done, and then we'll salute you all.
Well, let me jump first and just say real quickly. I'm gonna stay away from it a little bit because, you know, I'm a life person. So if I really don't know, I don't know. But I will say this: I'm not really sure if that's totally true, and I'm only saying that because of the few, not the few, but the activists that I know. I personally know that, like the one brother that's the one that's on the west side. I know that they are just as active, and there's some things that don't get the news media that they are doing just as much as in front of the camera or when the camera's on or when it's not. And so I know the ones that I know. Now, the reason why I'm backing down a little bit because maybe there are some who just are there for the cameras. I don't know. I don't know, but I just can say there are some. To my friend Corey Brooks at church, he's in front of the camera. But I also know as a friend, I know he's doing a lot of things when the news media is not there. So, you know, I don't know. I think there's some who just want the TV cameras for their but I'm just the few that I know are really not like it.
Okay.
Yeah, Carla, you know, as far as some activists, it's up and down, and you're correct. I think about maybe 10% of the activists hit the street when they're not on the camera. About another 90%, it's all about a photo op for whatever reason. Because I tell you something, when it comes down to dealing with gun violence, see, it's easy to protest against the police because you're like in a comfort zone, you practicing like your First Amendment rights and all that kind of stuff, and basic freedom of speech and all this comfort zone. But when it comes down to really dealing with trying to make change in the concrete jungle, a lot of people are scared of those type of confrontations and close encounters of the third kind, I would call it, because see, you haven't seen nothing till you seen one of them brothers on the street get outside of himself and confront you right there in front of everybody. A lot of people are not ready to deal with those type of situations. So, and I'm saying this from experience, I see a whole lot of Facebook activists, a whole lot of media activists, and I don't see them out on the streets where it really makes a difference when it comes down to the deep parts of the hood, trying to stop a killing on the front end or being around some crazy guys for a minute, trying to make sense of the madness. A lot of people don't have the skill set to do that, in other words. So I would like to say I know this from experience. So that's correct in a lot of ways because people see, you got to understand this, when the media is a double-edged sword because the media can make you or you can never see, once you're in the media a whole lot, if you ever do anything wrong or anything that appears to be wrong, they can smash you and you have to rise back up again. It's not as easy as people think it is. But the reality is that if I tell the media all the time, then I let it go. Whenever you interview somebody about stopping killings in Chicago, if they cannot tell you the last time they actually stopped a killing, you don't need to interview them people anymore. A lot of Black Death has become a big hustle. Everybody's playing a numbers game. You know, they say it was 40 murders last month. This month it was 35. Then they say it's a reduction. It's not really no reduction. You cannot keep using people as numbers. These are real people, human beings that lost their lives. And the police leaders play the numbers game. Most of the programs play the numbers game. People losing their damn life out there. So a lot of activists, if they're not for real, they really need to get out the way and just go do some more soft type of stuff and just be cool with that, because I don't see a lot of them out. I'm talking about in the nitty gritty. That's what I'm talking about, in the nitty gritty. So that's correct. And I see them on the police stuff because thousands of people march and all that stuff. So you safe, you kind of safe to a degree. But when we talking about it, stop the killing in Black Chicago, that's a whole nother area that's not as easy as people think it is.
Right.
All right,
No.
let me try.
Because I know you.
Yeah, let me try to stay. First of all, let me apologize to anyone if I offended them with anything other than the truth. With all due respect. Now let me answer the question. I learned to say that because sometimes, you know, you may know something more than somebody else. You may use a word that somebody may not know, and sometimes it offends people. But I tell community activists, if that's the word you want to give them, or people that have nonprofit, you know, names and titles, I tell them that you really shouldn't be out there, or you shouldn't have a nonprofit and receiving money unless you've been out there at least 5 years. And I'm not saying that because I've been out there 26 plus, or T.O. been out there longer than that. I'm saying that because you really don't know what you face with or what you're dealing with until you've been out there at least over 5 years. Because people, T.O., I've been talking about it probably over 15 years. T.O. probably been talking about it over 20 years, post-traumatic stress disorder. And we was talking about that because we ain't no doctor, or we knew it because that's what we seen. You know what I'm saying? So if a person just lose their daughter or their son and blood is rushing out of their brain, and then the mother is leaning over that baby and they crying, when is it the right time to approach them, to try to comfort them? What should you say? And if you ain't been out there over 5 years, you don't know. So what you really doing is creating more drama, and you really making it worse than you making it better. So, you know, you have people that see that, that's hot, and that's ready to go, and they ready to get revenge. What do you say to them? How do you approach them? How do you comfort them? You understand what I'm saying? This is no game.
It's like
But
loose
see,
cannons,
people,
Andre. They come out there like loose cannons.
no, but
Loose
watch this.
cannons.
Watch this. No, this is important. Watch this. But see, when you're an actor, you go get paid for it. You set up non-profit, anti-violence, this, anti-violence, that, and you get grants. You get money.
Did he leave?
No, he's just moving around, so it's his reception.
Okay. We
There
can't
he
hear
is.
you, Andre.
Hold on. We can't hear you. Hold on, Andre.
I'm gonna tell you this.
There you go. There you
Excuse me,
go.
guys.
We lost you for a minute.
Okay, so I say when people have anti-violence organizations, non-profit, it's a family business. They hire their mama, their sister, their brother, their friends, and it become a business. They just created a name. They created the name overnight. But they doing more damage. I'm gonna tell you this. Our people are dying because of their foolishness. The people in the street don't trust the preachers. They don't trust the police. They don't trust the teachers. They don't even figure out they should go to school anymore. And they sure in the hell don't trust these goddamn activists. They know that the activists took their mama to the attorney, and the attorney gave their ass some money to take that person a grief hustle. And out of 26 years of my goddamn life, I never took not one person. And my activist started all the way to Girl X. I never took nobody to a damn attorney and asked for no goddamn money. I never took a person to an attorney, period. That's not what I'm here for. I'm going to tell you this.
And that's fine, because it keep going out, and we got to wrap this up because we've been on here almost
Hey,
an
watch
hour and a
this.
half. It is
All
great.
right, watch this. Watch this.
It's great
Real
information, but
active.
your screen keep going in and it keep going out, and then it keeps pausing, and
You
this
gotta
will
stay
be
put, Andre. You gotta stay put so you can finish it. Just stay put.
All right, real activists lose shit. They don't gain.
Say that again.
Real activists lose family, they lose friends, they lose money, they lose jobs, they lose political clout. They don't gain a goddamn thing.
All right. All right. All right.
Ooh.
Well, you heard it here. We've been here for almost an hour and a half, and the truth has been spoken. We want to thank our guests that were on. Some of them had to step out, but we're going to get ready to wrap this show up. We thank you, Andre, for keeping it 100. We
Yes,
thank
you, Andre.
Hardeman. We thank Timothy Cross and Ted Williams. Rochelle tried to get on. I don't know what happened to her, but our goal is we're saving communities through the arts. This is our foundation. Yes. Our goal is to get donations and to do what we need to do to help save our youth and teens and rescue some of our young adults. And we mean those that haven't done a murder yet because they're not in jail. And I know I keep blending in and blending out and blending in. I don't know where I'm going. But anyway, so Dream Real Theater Company is a theater company where we just don't dream the dream. We live out our visions through the arts. And our goal is to give back. So when we ask for not for us, it's for us to get the building that we need to be able to house and do great things. But not only that, we want to be able to help those who are re-entering into society. So this is how saving our communities through the arts have came to be. It is a foundation. And coming on July 18th at my church, Carter Temple, on the parking lot, we're doing a food giveaway through Dream Real Theater Company and saving our communities through the arts and Family First and Eureka. And, you know, we're going to get this done. So if you're out at 3 o'clock, we start. We're giving away boxes of fresh fruit and food. Definitely come out and support. And if you would like to donate to the Dream Real Theater Company, please do so. Visit our website at www.dreamrealtheatre.company.org. Click the donate button. Yes, we have a cash app. It's Dream Real Theater. This is what we do. And then we'll be back with more shows like this with saving our communities through the arts with other guests, myself and Erica Porter, MB, Media Maven. Please follow her. Follow your girl, Carla Monet. Follow the Dream Real Theater Company. Follow
tell everybody how to follow Andre first.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was just about to say.
Follow
Andre. He's definitely here on Facebook. He's definitely ran for alderman. He's ran for state rep. And when this brother is running and speaking, maybe y'all should give him a chance and vote for him instead of putting people y'all think should be in the position that are not doing the job within the community that he's running for. That's all I have to say.
Andre, how can everybody find out about you? How can they find you?
They'll see me in the street.
He's still moving. He said in the street. Okay.
No, I mean, I don't do this for nobody to do nothing for me. That ain't what me and T.O. do. In closing, can you imagine if Oprah Winfrey gave T.O. Hardeman that $1 million?
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so tell everybody where they can find you. We already know that we can find the Dream Real Theater on all platforms. Also, the Dream Real.
You know I'm being silly. You know I'm being silly right now.
Carla, tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, if you want to find me, you definitely can find me here on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, Carla Monet is. Definitely follow the pages, follow me on Twitter, but definitely follow the Dream Real Theater Company. Soon we'll be having us saving our communities through the arts pages, but definitely find us. We will have another show like this next month. Quarantine Court is coming back. You know we're going to give you the comedy. We're going to give you the fun.
Yes.
Please share, tell somebody about what we're doing, and become a part of this movement.
Yes, and I'm Erica Porter, MBA. You can find me on all platforms, every single one of them, and also www.ericaportermba.com. We're here to serve you. You guys have a fantastic rest of the week. And just know that we are here to save our communities through the arts.
And we'll see you next month with some more guests and some great questions and answers. Be safe out there. Protect yourself from COVID-19.
We need some outro music. We do,
but I got the gospel. Hold on. Take me to the king. Somebody take me to the king. Y'all know I'm being silly. I always in the show being funny.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. We'll talk after this. Thank you.
Take me to the king.
There we go.
Truth is, I'm tired. I'm trying to pray, but where are you? I'm all churched out, hurt and